Hey, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to be here this morning to take an opportunity to talk with you a little bit about Factory of the Future, or Industry 4.0 at Bosch. There's been a little bit of a change in the schedule. As you may have just heard, I was expected to come on as the third speaker this morning, so I don't know if it's good or bad to be the first speaker. We'll see. Yeah, I work for the division Bosch Rexroth. It's a 100% owned subsidiary of Robert Bosch Corporation, and out of Lohr, Germany. That's our headquarters. So I think Bosch is a well-known company not only in Europe and Germany, but also in China. Just real quick, a couple figures about Bosch. It's about a 70 billion euro a company, 70 billion euro a year company. More than 375,000 associates or employees worldwide. It's one of the largest suppliers of automotive technology throughout the world. In industrial technology, we're a leading automation supplier. I'll be talking a little bit about that more later in my presentation. In energy and building technology is another one of our divisions. We're a leader manufacturer of security technology. Even notice the translators we have here are from Bosch. And then in the consumer goods, many of you know us from our drills and our hand tools and stuff like that. And of course also from white goods like refrigerators and washing machines and dryers and things like that. As mentioned, I work for the division called Bosch Rexroth. We're about a 34,000 employee size company, 5.6 billion euros in sales in 2014. We produce in about 25 countries, almost 70 locations, including here in China, of course, and about in 5 continents, and what's quite significant, we have a research and development budget of more than 340 million euros. Okay, just a few statements about the company, and now the topic of my talk this morning is Factory of the Future, and I don't think we'll be seeing anything like this real soon. I think that's maybe 40, 50 years from now, who knows. So I'd like to talk to about something that's a lot more down to earth, and have 3 major topics this morning. And I'll start off with just talking about some definitions. And excuse me if you've heard all this stuff maybe dozens of times already, but maybe it's not a bad idea just to go over them real quickly. These are these 3 terms that we hear a lot. It's IoT, or the Internet of Everything, then IIoT, the Industrial Internet of Things, and then Industry 4.0, or I 4.0. So, I'm sure you've all seen some slides similar to this, maybe this very slide. I think it's actually from VDMA, an organization out of Germany. Just giving a graphics, what about the Internet of Things? This term was actually coined about 17 years ago by a British man who was making a presentation at Procter & Gamble about using lots of RFID tags to simplify and to improve their logistics for all their suppliers. And so that name just kind of stuck, and now everybody uses it quite freely. And the idea, I think this is even one of his original quotes: connection of the physical with the digital world via ubiquitous sensors. Not sure if everybody knows what that word means, but ubiquitous means lots of, or many. So a lot of sensors. And we see all these different divisions. We see that in transportation, in building, and in power grids. But today we're here talking about manufacturing. So that's what I want to concentrate on, the upper right-hand corner. How is the Internet of Things affecting manufacturing? Uh-oh, hit the wrong button. Let me see if I go down. I'm going to need some technical help. Sorry. I hit this somehow. If click that away. There we go. We're good. Thank you very much. Okay, and so in manufacturing environments, we talk nowadays about the industrial Internet of Things, or IIoT. IIoT can be considered just a subset of the larger IoT. And it's dealing basically with the concept of smart, connected operations, smart machines, smart operations in a manufacturing environment, and the widespread use of sensors. I mean, we've always had lots of sensors in industrial environments, but I would say now the push there is actually to increase the number of sensors, or maybe to use the sensors there better, or actually new generation. I mean, I was speaking to one of my former colleagues earlier, right before the session here, and nowadays you hear a lot out there, everything is something 4.0. So if it's something to do with printing, it's print 4.0, it's manufacturing 4.0, and sure enough, there's also sensors 4.0. And basically what they're talking about is providing even more data from sensors that are now implied and installed in manufacturing facilities around the world. And the idea is that we're networking these sensors not just with old proprietary field buses like in the past, but we're using industrial Ethernet and using internet protocols. And that opens a whole lot of possibilities to get this data in a form, first of all, to an area that we can store it, and also to have it in a form that makes it useful in manufacturing environments. So, last definition here of the three things I was wanting to talk about: IoT, IoT, and then Industry 4.0. There again, if you Google it, you'll probably get 100 different hits. There's about, I don't know how many different definitions. I've read a lot of them the last couple months and the last few weeks preparing for this, but I'll give you the Bosch definition. So you see, it's basically the fusion of the physical world of production with the virtual world of information. You see a lot of linkage there. Also, IIoT and Industry 4.0, maybe a quick note there. It seems like these two things are talking about kind of the same thing: industrial Internet of Things and factory Industry 4.0. There's a lot of overlap depending on the use cases. And the idea is that humans, machines, objects, and systems are connected with this industrial communication technology, or ICT, and they do it in a much more dynamic and real-time way than maybe in the past. You know, you always had real-time for your machines, so you could have machine control, but did you ever getting real-time up and out to other parts within your organization? That's a newer development. That's part of Industry 4.0. And then you have these intelligent production systems, and they're not just talking to one another, and they're not just taking care of making these parts, but they're actually communicating to the whole manufacturing plant, as it were, and involved in the entire value-added chain all the way down to supplier logistics. And with these qualities, or with these features of Industry 4.0, there's a lot of things that are promised and opportunities. I'll be talking about that in the next slide. But one of the things we see is the ability to really get much more customized production. And we have this a couple pilot projects running at Bosch. We're really doing batch size 1 production on a single manufacturing line. So, like everything, every new movement, every new vision in production and manufacturing, we have advantages and opportunities. There again, there's lots of different numbers floating out there. These are my numbers that I've gotten from an organization in Germany. So the idea is, number one, the potential to reduce stock. Safety stock, basically having products on site because of the wanting to have a buffer for different production loads and missing production. We're talking about, in the production itself, improving overall equipment efficiencies, improving personnel flexibilities. In logistics, as I mentioned earlier in that first slide, this first term comes from this Internet of Things, actually comes from a presentation done about logistics and RFID. So that is just something that continues to grow and offer all sorts of possibilities to streamline logistics. Quality, if you can get a lot of data coming out from your processes and you can get it real time, then you have the ability maybe to do some inline quality, not just only after the fact. And then in service, if you have a good idea how your machines are working, you're getting a lot of information, you have a chance to say, okay, I don't need to keep 50 of these different bearings or these different drives or things like that. My data shows me I can be fine with 10 or 5. And then you can do then condition-based monitoring, maintenance as well. When you get information back and it starts showing you're having problems with your quality and it looks like one part of your machine needs to be serviced, that needs to be maintained. So these are just a list. There's a lot more out there, probably different numbers, but these are sort of opportunities and advantages we see at Bosch and at Bosch Rexroth with Industry 4.0. So how do we look at Industry 4.0 at Bosch? Industry 4.0 actually came out of a working group, a national, it's actually co-funded by the German government, and includes all major or many major manufacturers in Germany. So we have a pretty unique situation at Bosch. Number one, we're a lead operator, right? So we have more than 250 plants. That number is actually a little bit old worldwide. So we have a lot of data about machine operation and plant operation and interfacing to customers and suppliers. So that's on the right side. But on the left side, we're also a lead provider. So we have in the group, for example, the division I worked for, Bosch Rexroth, we're a drive and control company inside a factory automation. We have Bosch Software Innovations. We have Bosch Packaging, which are making special machinery for food and packaging. And we have a division called Bosch Connected Devices and Solutions. So we have a really unique opportunity here within Bosch to as a user or an operator of Industry 4.0's technologies and ideas, and also to be a provider. Some very nice synergies actually going on there. So we at Bosch, other companies have identified other things. We've identified basically 7 features of Industry 4.0 at Bosch. So starting at 9 o'clock, we distributed intelligence, fast integration and flexible configuration, open standards, virtual real-time representation, digital lifecycle management, secure value creation networks, and in the middle, people. People as the players are an integral part of even highly integrated digital smart factories are still people. So let's look at a couple of those features and not look at all of them, but just a couple. For example, distributed intelligence. So one of the examples there is autonomous rollers, or AGVs, automatic guided vehicles. Those are not new in themselves. You see those a lot in automotive facilities, but the idea now is to give them increased intelligence, increased connectivity. So we talk about transport from a supermarket. That's kind of a Bosch term, where basically the supermarket is where the goods get received and we put them on a storage area for a very short time. And then we have the ability actually to feed the different production lines in our manufacturing locations autonomously. And they even have the ability then to actually swarm together. So if you have not just having dedicated feeders to dedicated operations, but actually have them be a little bit independent. So you can say if you're really having suddenly a high requirement for parts and components at a certain facility, at a certain operation, you can actually get these autonomous vehicles to work together and to service this part of the manufacturing. And then as we continue to go in the area of adding intelligence to the manufacturing modules or operations. So here the modules or the machines gain an intelligence of what processes they need to do, and then these modules or operations have the ability then to detect, it's not so new, but an increased ability to detect what parts are coming in and to react and act accordingly. So that's one of the features of Industry 4.0 for Bosch, is distributed intelligence. Then another feature is fast integration and flexible configurations. At Bosch, it's like in many other manufacturing companies, we have what we call lead plants. So we have a lead plant in one part of the world, and we have then sister plants in other locations, not around the corner, sometimes around the globe. And so as we are in the lead plant making changes to our processes and optimizing things, also identifying quality issues, we have the ability to get this out into our sister plants very quickly. And depending on load and where we have high demand, we can actually then move manufacturing capacities around. Of course, you need to have that on the other end. There again, back to the machines or to the modules, they need to be configured to be reconfigured, especially as they're picking up different manufacturing loads, and have the ability to actually string together on the fly, so as it were, as long as the modules can handle it, to kind of do kind of instantaneous production lines to meet increased demand. Yeah, and have this concept of plug and produce modules that can be interchanged quickly with one another. Of course, all this interchangeability and flexibility requires open standards. And we at Bosch Rexroth have been a proponent of this for many years. And Bosch is a huge consumer of machine tools for assembly machines, for packaging machines around the world. So for a company like Bosch, it's really important that machines can talk to each other and modules can talk to one another. And as we move to Industry 4.0, the idea of moving this data out and getting it into a storage area and into a cloud, there needs to be a real set of open standards that allows people to get at this data and to do something with it. So we have all these great interconnected networks allowing plants and production facilities to talk to one another. It requires a very secure network, across our different facilities to share this data. You know, in years past, or still even today, you talk about doing risk assessment for machines. So you say, can I operate a machine with the door open, and if I have a handheld, and how do I do a safe reduced speed and things like that. Now they're talking about doing risk assessments for your IT structure in your facility, in your company. And it's also requiring training for the employees. This is an ongoing thing at Bosch. I have a colleague here, he knows about all the information we get from the headquarters, and this is being pushed quite strongly to get really a company-wide culture that deals with IT security, because we're going to be pushing more and more things out into private clouds or to larger open global clouds. We need to have a lot of tight and secure collaboration between people, machines, and manufacturing locations. And last, but of course not least, as I mentioned, in the center of our vision for Industry 4.0 are people. And we see in the future smart factories or factories of the future or factories with Industry 4.0 are not going to be devoid of people. There's just people are going to be doing different things. And so we're going to have a lot of data being provided, a lot of analysis need to be done, and a lot of mastering the complexity of this needs to be addressed. And that brings you to then the last topic is then training. And so we at Bosch are working continuously in training up our our workforce, existing colleagues and new colleagues to deal with these different technologies that are now really in our facilities already. So then my last topic for this presentation is what we call Factory of the Future. You know, the first slide I showed the space station somewhere up in orbit. It's much more down to earth. We have a lot of things going on at Bosch right now. Basically, we have about somewhere between 50 and 100, depending what status. We have pilot projects running in our facilities. And you see there again, we have up in the right-hand corner, Bosch as a lead user with all this experience in machine operation and plant operation and interfacing to customers and suppliers. And over here to my left, Bosch is a leading provider with software solutions, with services, with components and systems for automation. So how are we doing this at Bosch? At Bosch, we have two streams that we are now pushing forward to push this idea and to advance in our so-called network production. And we have the so-called pilot stream, where we have so-called pilot projects, and then we have our mainstream. So in our mainstream, we're working on optimizing existing manufacturing lines and processes. That's, I guess, what most companies are doing around the world. But we also have is this pilot stream. And so in this pilot stream, we're doing stuff in pilot projects. They go through a process where they're approved, and then they just start doing it. And as time goes on, we have the ability to take some of the stuff that we've learned from these pilot projects over into the mainstream. And so we get immediate feedback because, of course, a pilot project is usually kind of low quantities and they're not running more than one shift and it's not a real manufacturer. We have a nice opportunity. We feed some of these concepts over into our mainstream and then we get feedback from that. So let's hit a few more examples here. So, as I mentioned, the intelligence, the distributed intelligence. So there to my right, components are identified at the machine, and they actually tell the machine how to adjust itself accordingly. So we have that actually working now in a I guess it's not even a pilot line. I guess you could almost call it a mainstream by now. In a plant in Homburg, it's won a bunch of awards in Germany, and it's doing basically one-off assembly, manufacturing of special valves used in mobile applications. And so this has been an opportunity. Started as a pilot line. It's running production, and a lot of these ideas are being already integrated into other manufacturing locations. So this is running in a plant in Homburg. We also have a family of robots called APAS, and these are assisted robots and allow, they're not replacing workers, but they're taking some of the load off kind of strenuous, heavy, or very monotonous jobs. And we have these now running in several locations. I don't know actually the location. We have these also running at several locations now at Bosch plants in Europe. To my left, we talk about recording. Now we're talking about logistics. This is a very big portion of Industry 4.0. So we have widespread use of RFIDs. We are using this in, I'd say, the majority of our plants, and allowing it now to get this information back to our suppliers almost in a real-time sort of basis. So reducing our stock that we need to have on hand. So the widespread of our RFID at Bosch is continuing to streamline our processes, our logistics. Then on to my right, we're working with things like smart glasses. These are actually now being used in a Bosch plant in Homburg, Germany. There we go. I do see, I skipped a slide, I'll have to come back to that. Where we're actually using smart glasses. And so this is being used in our facilities in southern Bavaria. And it's not only just giving some instructions for operators for assembly procedures, but we're also testing it with maintenance people who actually have to go and do repair work on a part of a machine, and then we're allowed to get the manual or some of the documentation up on the glasses. And of course, these gentlemen are not having one hand looking at a piece of paper and then looking at it. They actually have both hands available. Huh? I noticed I skipped a slide, so I want to go back to it. No, I guess I didn't. Sorry about that. Okay, and then we talked about quality. Huh? And so, you know, I think any manufacturer of goods, and I think Bosch is known for having fantastic quality, but even though I'd say many or most manufacturers, I'd say all manufacturers around the world have, despite of really good in-house testing, they do deliver products that then don't work at a customer, or they fail prematurely, even though they passed testing. And so we're looking at Bosch now about how to look at data coming from the machines where these things are being produced and doing what we call so-called, and you've heard it before, data mining. So we get all this lots and lots of data in, and then we're looking at seeing at different processes along the manufacturing where we on limits, we're at tolerances, and so we can kind of start to do in a preventive way to start to look at certain operations that may be actually generating a quality problem. We're doing that in a plant in Charleston, South Carolina, an Anderson plant. And of course, a big part of being flexible and being fast is rapid prototyping. So we at Bosch use quite a bit of 3D printers or additive manufacturing, and allows us to actually, in a very quick way, to actually build up a product using metal or using plastic, and to get then the information back we need from that to make adjustments or changes to our manufacturing. Talked a little bit about predictive maintenance, reducing the amount of downtime. Most machines out there nowadays have a tremendous amount of sensors built into them already. We at Bosch Rexroth provide high-end servo solutions and have just a tremendous amount of sensors in the drives and in the system. So there's all sorts of ability to look at different data from a machine, speeds and current and following error, and start to make analysis already of the way the machine is performing, even though it's not producing failures yet, but it's starting to get towards the edge. There's starting as a curve moving in the wrong direction. So that will, and we have that working with on several pilot locations, also at a plant in southern Bavaria, and we're working with one of our parent organization called Bosch Software Innovations. So that's some of the things we're doing at Bosch right now. Actually, we are really implementing Industry 4.0 and moving our factories in this direction of this factory of the future. That's on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, as I said, we're a lead provider, and I'll just a few notes from on that to make a little plug for my division, Bosch Rexroth, the drive and technology company. A lot of these pilot projects that we're running at Bosch plants are using these products that we supply, from controllers, whether they be motion controllers or CNC controllers, intelligent drives. We make different software applications that allow, for example, this web connector that allows the data to get out of your controller using OPC, UA, and up to the IT world. We have remote condition monitoring. We put all this stuff, all this data up into a cloud and we have some algorithms that run there and let you to do all sorts of analysis about how your machines are running. And then we have these intelligent drives. And so not only do our drives move loads back and forth and position them, they give a tremendous amount of information back about how is the machine running. Because we know its speed, we know its torque, we know the current, we know how hot things are running, we know about when things might be going wrong in your machine. Yeah, so that's, like I said, a nice synergy we have going at Bosch. We have these products, they get into the Bosch plants, we get immediate feedback, we're able to make modifications, we're able to make new innovations, and I'll just hit one of them, just one last plug. We have a feature, it's called the Open Core Interface, and it's basically allows, as I put across here, connecting standard PLCs with IT-based automation. So there again, it allows our customers to write all sorts of specific routines that they want. I mean, we provide a huge library, but somebody wants to go in there and says, hey, in my process, I really want to look at not speed and current, but I want to look at speed and temperature because there's a correlation there between these two values that have an effect on my production or on my quality. We provide an interface for people to go down there, grab that data, to manufacture, to manipulate it the way they want to store it in an area that they need to. So, and a lot of these, this open core interface is part of open core engineering, where it says it's open. We provide this to our customers and allow them to configure their machines. All right. I see that I have 7 minutes and 58 seconds left, so I'm pretty much in time. I'm going to leave 5 minutes for some questions and answers. But as we say there as a final slide, we think that the Industry 4.0 and the factory of the future really provides a lot of exciting new business modules for machine builders and for end customers. Okay.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right.
You're managing time very well.
All right, thank you.
Very exciting presentation. Bosch done a lot of pilot on the future plant, future Industry 4.0. Any questions?
Thank you, Daniel. So this has been very exciting sharings from Bosch Technology. So my question is, you introduced a lot about the future plant factory.
Yes.
And then the pellet plant, it looks really exciting. But what's Bosch standing on the legacy plant? Yeah. You know, who just enter from 2.0.
I mean, legacy is always a problem, right? Yeah, I mean, the controllers get old, you can't use them anymore, and so there's a lot of initiatives going on out there, but basically you're having to use stuff like gateways. So there's manufacturers out there, Phoenix and Weitmuller, and they're basically making gateways. You need to, you're not going to rip out your old field bus and rewire it with some sort of industrial Ethernet-based field bus. So if you want that connectivity, you're looking to probably have to use some sort of gateways, additional hardware to get that data up.
好的，还有谁有问题？
Any questions?
In the China local industry, there's a lot of factories still in the early stage.
Yeah.
And probably Industry 2.0, even lower. And
I don't know. There's a lot of modern
what's your suggestion? How can they close this gap cost effectively?
Well, I mean, as the gentleman just said, if you've got legacy devices, you're going to have to probably go out and buy some sort of gate, put some new hardware in there that gets that information in a form and a protocol up to a and a lot of what we're talking about here, you'll hear again and again, is cloud, and cloud is kind of general term. So a cloud can be a server in your plant that's getting all this, or a cloud could be something provided by Microsoft or Oracle. So, so you can, first thing is to get the data out to a cloud, and then you'll start to look at using some, working with a supplier, like Bosch, to start doing analytics on your all this data that's coming in. So that's one way, and then it goes all the way to, as I said, down to your logistics. I mean, we at our facility in Lohr, Germany, where we make servo drives and we make our servo motors, we've actually gone in and started step by step adding all sorts of these Industry 4.0 sort of things, and a lot of it's just, it requires investment. A lot of times it doesn't request, at least it's an investment in getting everything in your plant wired up together. I mean, either it's wireless or it needs to be connected, wireless or Ethernet, that's one thing, and then often it means getting some new hardware to get some more intelligence down to the plant. So we see that now in our facilities there. We have new monitors and that are assisting operators, so parts are coming in, they automatically see what requirements are there, then they can actually then see a 3D animation of the part, and they can rotate it around to see if there's what needs to be done, what's changed since maybe the last time they put this together. So an investment basically first in hardware and software.
Okay, so they should have this vision in their mind.
Yes.
But step by step.
Step by step. Step by step.
Okay, thank you, Daniel.
All right.